Hello and welcome to Building Futures, career conversations with leading lights across the built environment. Today I have Gemma Pont, Associate Architect from CPMG Architects here in London. Hello, Gemma.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me today. So my sort of reason for really wanting to talk to you all comes from a conversation I had just early this month with a group of friends. And the scenario was that we were sitting there was four of us, and we were discussing their, in one case daughter and other case niece, who were considering architecture. And they turned to me as the woman who works in recruitment in construction and property and said, do you think architecture is an inclusive place for a young lady? Because my daughter and my niece have been told it might not be. And I was saying, no, it is, it's a great career. But instead, what I thought would be great is to talk to somebody who is a young, inspirational architect to talk about your experiences in your choices. So can you, just before we start to go back to when you were younger and the choices, can you just explain to everyone who's listening, what is your current job?
I am an associate architect at CPMG Architects, and I lead together with my colleague Chris White the London practice, which is currently 10 members, but is part of a wider group with the head office in Nottingham, which is 60 plus members. So we are London, but we are the smaller branch of the practice.
So going back to your choices. So when you were making your decisions in Spain and Barcelona, what inspired you to follow architecture?
I can't remember I had a breaking moment in which I thought, I've always wanted to do this, or I've always wanted to pursue this career. So I know how scary it can be to choose something like this. It feels like a life decision.
Yes.
It's gonna define your moment, that moment and onwards for a very long time. So I would say, first of all, don't be scared about it. We are all allowed to make mistakes sometimes, but for me, it wasn't a mistake at all. It was quite last minute, I have to admit. I was very driven towards technology, and I was really driven towards design. So for me, architecture felt like the best of both worlds. And whilst it was quite last minute decision, almost like I was feeling in the application, I've never regretted it. I thought, still today, I think it's great. I love my job. I'm really happy I didn't make that decision back in the time.
Because it's quite an intense and long study, isn't it, to become an architect?
It is.
Could you break it down for people who don't know as to what the stages are?
You have to be very committed. That right. I give it to you. So because it is very hard. So you have to bear with me because I didn't study in the UK. So in Barcelona it was slightly different. But in here it basically is broken down in initial 3 years. Then you can do a year out, in which you do practice in an architectural firm, or you can go to a construction practice as well. Yeah. And then you do 2 more years, and then you have your master's. And then in order to become an architect and to be able to call yourself an architect, you have to do what's called the part 3, which is 1 more year. It's not a lot of time in university. It's only an evening, couple of hours a week. Although it's quite hard and it's quite intense in terms of workload. But then after that, you are an architect. You can call yourself an architect and practice as an architect.
So for you, what is it that makes you so pleased? You just said, I'm really pleased that I chose this, even though it was a last minute decision. What is it brings to you, architecture?
First of all, I love the variety that brings with it. Even the most complicated jobs come to an end and a new one starts. And the new one might look similar, but it's not. You have different clients, you have different briefs, you have different places. You are never doing the same job again and again. It's always something very different. That appealed to me very straightforward. And today, that is what makes this job interesting. You don't get tired of doing it. It's quite intense and it can get complicated depending on the client and the project. But you always come to an end. And at the end, you have something. You've created something. And I love that when my mom comes to London and I say, that was me, you know, that I was part of that. I was part of the team who built that. So that makes me very happy.
And also I think the values of this new generation that's coming through, Generation Alpha as they're being called, what we hear about them is they're incredibly values-led and they have to be passionate about what they do. And I can hear that passion when you're talking about, I created that. And I mean, I'm not an architect and I'm not an engineer, but in my time of helping to recruit people that go on these big projects, I know that when I come into London Bridge Station in London, I know that I've placed engineers on the Shard. I mean, this was many moons ago when it was being designed. And I look at the Shard and I go, I know that I place people and I helped to build that building. Exactly. And you feel this,
that you're part of that thing.
Don't you?
Exactly. You're part of that tiny little piece of thing. Well, the Shard is not tiny, but you know what I mean. You feel part of that thing that is going to stay there for years and years to come. And I feel very proud about this.
Because it isn't just the design, is it? It's the purpose that building fulfills, if that makes sense. Because it's someone's home, or it's someone's office, or it's a hospital, or it's a school. Do you, when you're designing, is it purely in terms of practical sense, or how much does the actual purpose of the building actually, or is it just the site and what you dealt with, or is it all of those things together that influences it?
It's all of it, really. Right. Especially when you design, there's so many factors that come into actually being able to deliver that thing that you have to do. Yeah. So it's not one single thing. And again, going back, this is why it's so interesting. The sites always change. You have different drives. You have different people that's going to inhabit that building, and you have to take them into account. So it's just everything, and how you're able to juggle all this, and how you're able to become with that project that likes you, that you feel proud about, that the client is happy about, but most importantly, that people that's going to use that building is going to be happy with. I think that's why schools, for example, are so rewarding. When you see all these kids running around and you actually see them happy, learning, and those spaces functioning as how they should be functioning, it's really rewarding. It's a really rewarding job, I have to say.
I agree with that, because I think now there's so much more research about how buildings can make you feel, isn't there? About how you can change how someone feels and their mood by what they can either see or the environment that they're in. And there is so much research around how a school is built can affect genuinely the learning of those children. I'm fortunate enough to be a school governor in a primary school, and I can see how in the very youngest children, they have classrooms that allow them to what they call indoor-outdoor, where they can go outside and play and come back inside. And that makes that child learn better because they can do that. There's also all that research that patients in hospitals who have a nice view from their room get better quicker.
Yeah. So everything we do impacts people's lives. And as such, we have to be very mindful of this, and we have to make it our top priority. This is a must do.
So you're almost part sociologist, part problem solver, part very good at designing and the technical sides. And it's the width of that brief, isn't it? So if you were going back and sort of giving yourself that advice when you were younger, what advice would you give yourself about your career?
One of the things I've learned with time, is that there is a place for everyone. Sometimes you go to university and you feel you have to be the best designer, the best model maker, you have to draw the most beautiful pictures, and there's a place for everyone. If that's not exactly what you shine at, don't worry. There's so many things in the construction industry that I can bet you 100%, whatever you want, you're going to find your spot in there. I was maybe not the best designer, but I'm a good planner. I know how to organize teams. I know how to program jobs. And I really like and I really love seeing the people in the London practice coming to me with problems, how to organize jobs, how to talk to clients. These are the deadlines, how we can organize it. So they're happy, they get the product that they want to the quality that I want them to have it, but that the team is not stressed, that they have a timetable that they can actually meet with with good mental health in the meantime. So there is and this is only one example. There's so many out there. It's not Like, there's no one single place or one single thing that you can do. Even as an architect in the construction business, there's a lot of things that you can do.
Because construction as a process is, in my view, the ultimate team sport. You know, it is, isn't it? Because it's not just you within your own architect's practice. You're then dealing with the engineers, both, you know, the structural, or if you're building a building, and the building services engineers, the planners you're having to deal with, and then that's before you've even got to site. And then it's people skills are actually quite important. Is that part of the training, or is it just something you have to learn?
I think you learn it as you go. In university, at least when I was back there, it was quite individual driven. But right now, when you go to practice and you see big teams and you work in big jobs, teamwork is, I know it sounds like everyone's using the word teamwork, but trust me, you don't get anything done without a good team that supports you. You don't get anything done without, because at the end of the day, the industry is so broad. There's so many different things that let's stop lying to us. You can't know everything. And it's fine. So you find that team. I love how my partner used to define how to build teams. You build teams like puzzles. You don't have the same piece repeated. You just build teams like complementing and actually building the picture that you want with different kind of attitudes, isn't it? So that's what our team is for. So if you want to resolve a big project, you have to find those characters, those people that's going to do it the best, and you're not going to get anywhere if you don't have that team. It's individualism doesn't exist anymore in this business.
It can't, can it? And actually, I love what you just said, because you almost breathe a sigh of relief, and you can just say, I don't need to know everything.
No.
And it's okay.
It's okay, exactly. It's okay. I tell that to the part ones in the practice a lot of times. I say, have you done this? And they looked at me scared. They're like, this is not a tricky question. I'm not trying to trip you. I'm not trying to test you at all. If it's a no, it's a no. I'll show you how to do it. That's why we're here. You're learning. I'm learning. I'm never hiding. I don't know everything. If I wasn't learning, I wouldn't be interested in this job anymore. Why? To do every time again and the same again and again and again. Not interested. So
it's also, there's this, I heard a phrase recently, which was called radical honesty. But it's also that what that means is are you willing to say, I don't know it all?
I have to admit that kind of approach comes as well with time and confidence. I think I've reached a point in my career in which I've got the confidence enough to be blunt about what I know or what I don't know. I have not always been like this, I'm not going to lie. So when you're young and you're trying to prove yourself as an architect in the business, you almost want to hide what you don't know, you feel embarrassed about it. I think with the time you understand that shouldn't be the case. And this is why I want to encourage the younger people who are saying, look, if you don't know it, you don't know it, it's fine. But yeah, it has come with the time that I am not brave, but I'm not scared about saying, no, I don't know that. And I shouldn't know it. Can you teach me how to do it?
Because what I've learned actually is that vulnerability allows other people, when you actually say, oh, I've never done that before, that's not saying I don't want to learn.
No, absolutely.
That's saying I just don't know how to do it.
Exactly.
And I've found in those moments where I've thought, shall I say it or shall I not? And then when I do, then actually people will come and help you. They don't think you're stupid or silly for not knowing. They're actually like, oh, okay, well, let me show you how to do it. Exactly. And that's the best learning, isn't it? Where you just go, oh, no, I don't know how to do that actually. Please teach me. Exactly. But it's creating that environment, isn't it? The way you actually go, yeah, this is, yeah, I don't know this, but I'm okay with not knowing this, but I'm open to show me a different way. And I think we all need to continue to feel like we're learning from people. So from you, when you've been making those big career decisions, like obviously we're here in London now, not over in Barcelona, how did you make those big career decisions? Are you writing lists with yes, no? Are you very practical in career decisions? Or is it far more intuitive, feeling if this feels right or not? Or you're somewhere in the middle?
God, I never thought about it. I'm a very pragmatic person. So I would have imagined that a person like me would have made lists, but I think I've always done them by intuition. which is strange because I am a very focused person. I always have a plan and I know which plan it should be. But it's funny because all the big decisions I've made, like just leaving home or just going somewhere else, I've made them out of intuition. I think there's something inside you eventually that tells you exactly. You can make as many lists as you want. There's something eventually that tells you everything's going to be okay. Just do it. Plus, if you're young, it's like, come on, you can always go back. It's not a problem.
It's always, people have such a fear of what they're going to lose. And actually, sometimes in your career, you have to also think of what you're going to gain. Yeah. And it's that constant lose versus gain. And it's always to think, and when people ask me about how can you make big decisions, it's almost, it can be a list for somebody if that's the right thing to do. If you don't feel it intuitively, I think writing those lists, but also looking at where you might not have a skill set and where would you like to gain that skill set. So if you've never, for example, had experience with a certain project, can you do that in-house or do you have to go somewhere else to find that? But it's almost kind of analysing yourself and seeing what's missing and seeing, can you do that where you are? Or if not, do you have to find it elsewhere? But ultimately, there's something within you that just tells you, doesn't it?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm with you. I think making this kind of lists and trying to have an honest opinion of what you think you want to do, what you think you know to achieve these things you want to do. It sounds like a great idea. Knowing what you want to do, knowing what you don't want to do.
Yes.
Sometimes that is as good as, I remember when I was young, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was very, very sure I didn't want to do.
And what did that look like for you?
I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be like, But even in university, when I started working, I remember I started in a very, very small practice. I was in university and helping a local architect doing one-off houses. And I remember thinking, it's like, I don't know what I want to do because I was very young yet, so I didn't know. But I did know the one-off houses were not for me. I kept working there. I learned a lot. He was so patient and he was so nice to me. And he taught me everything he knew. But I felt like, you know what, I don't know what I want to do, but I know this is not for me. Yeah. So sometimes that's what you learn as you go. You don't have your end goal, but you start taking things out of the picture, thinking, okay, this not. And eventually, I think we all eventually find what we want to do.
I think what you have to accept, I think, in careers is no one that I've interviewed has gone, oh, well, yes, I started at 15. I knew I wanted to do this and it just went like that. I think that often the most successful people it's not gone like this. It's gone like up and down. And
because you learn from everything, isn't it? It's just... teamwork is not only for architectural construction business, it's everywhere. If you've worked in a restaurant, you probably learn of teamwork as well. If you work in many other places, I think this is the reason, is like you learn from every experience that you've had. So thinking that everything is a straight line, forget about it. But it's not. It would be very boring as well. I've got that goal, there we go.
Yes, here it is, I've got it.
Come on, things in the road, like bumps in the road, are always the funniest part. They're rough sometimes, but you look back at them and think, you know what, it was worthwhile. You learned something out of those as well.
I couldn't agree more. I think I read this quote from Nelson Mandela, which was, you either win or you learn.
I love that one.
And it's so true though, isn't it?
It is true.
That in those moments where it didn't work out, or you just felt like, what could, and then it makes you sit back. I think sometimes when things almost go well each time, you don't have that moment of self-reflection. And that's why, and again, when I'm advising people on their careers and what to do, it's almost sometimes, even when it's going really well, that's almost the moment you need to step back and go, what else do I need to do? Is this go? And if you come out of that and go, yes, it's still good. It's exactly what I need to be learning. I'm learning this, I'm learning that, I'm being exposed to this, I'm on this project, then great. But don't wait until you're in a crisis. Does that make sense? And you're really unhappy. Take time to sit and actually think. And often that can happen to people on holiday, actually, I find. When they're relaxed, their brain starts to think about Am I getting to where I want? Is this achieving it? But I think sometimes just taking a moment to go, what do I want? Where do I want to be, if you can, in 5 years? What skills do I need to get there? What do I need to learn? What projects I need to be in? And who are the people around me that I'll need to get to what I need to get to? Can I stay and get that here, or do I need to go elsewhere? And it can just be volunteering. Volunteering can give you a load of skills, but it's using and being engaged with your own career, I think, can be quite important.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's a little bit one of the reasons why I left the previous practice and I moved into my current practice. I have been there for 5 years and I loved it. They taught me everything I know from the way the UK architectural world works, and I could never be grateful enough for them to give me that opportunity. But it is true that it reached into a moment in which I did that. You think about what you want to achieve, where you want to go. Is it by this path I've chosen, or should I just choose another path? Should I just move along? And I was very happy, and nothing happened in my life that made me move somewhere else. It was just that moment in which you think, well, okay, what else is there? What else do you want to do? Is this the right way, or should I choose another way? I could have chosen wrong, but
it's being willing to take that. And I always say to people, if you can try and create that role where you are, or make the changes you need where you can, always try and do that first. But if not, try and write that list of what you think is missing. If you can then, like I said, do something in a volunteering way that gives you that experience. But if not, then leaving I always think leaving a party when the lights are still on, the music's still going, it's all positive, it also affects your mindset, because it's not necessarily walking away from something, it's walking towards something. And I think it also means the mindset you have to walk into the new practice or organisation is positive, because you made that choice for you. Does that make sense? On a positive note?
I think it works a little bit like when you're working on a project. Don't plan, don't firefight. Your life should be exactly the same. Plan, don't firefight. Don't look for that change once you are in trouble, once you are not very convinced something has happened. No, plan ahead. Where am I? Where do I want to go? And don't wait until that event happens that drove you off road. No, plan ahead. Firefighting, not a nice position to be. Same as with work. You just need to get things rolling and done to make sure that you're successful at the very end.
So if I could give you this magic wand now, so you've got this magic wand.
I'm loving the idea.
Yes, straight away. Yes, I'll take the magic wand. And there was a way in which you could, change the built environment, the construction industry, the architecture, not just architecture, but further. How could you do it so more people felt that they would be at home here? What would you do? Is there anything you think we could be doing to help to convince more people, please come and work in this industry, we need you? Because we do need them, don't we? We need as many people as possible.
We certainly need more people,
yes. Is there anything you would do to try and convince people that you would be very welcome to come and work here?
That's a very tough question. I think the industry brings so many good things, and there are so many things out there that people can do and can benefit from the construction industry. I think we have a lot of challenges as an industry, but it's because the world's changing. It's changing so fast, and we want everything fast. So you have all these variables, and you have to meet these tight deadlines, very fast-paced programs, keep clients happy and deliver them to that level of quality that you really, really want to achieve. That I think that's what I would change. I think we need to all take a breath, make sure that we are where we need to be. We're delivering it in a way that everyone gets what they want. Clients get their beautiful buildings, contractors get their programs met in time to the quality that they want, and us as architects and consultants of the industry just get the time to produce this information. There is well-being at the center of everything that we do to make sure that staff is happy. So, God, if you give me that magic wand, you call it, I would certainly change this. But it's not scary either. That's the interesting part of the business as well, is what drives us at the same time, that fast pace, that interest, that kind of always seeking that really, really high level of quality of buildings and seeing that end product at the very end. So
I love it. I love the passion that you have for architecture, and I really hope that anyone who's listening to this themselves who's considering architecture, but any parents or relatives of young people considering it, will encourage them based on what you've said, that it's a great career for people to go into.
It is a beautiful career, yes.
And the values and the fulfillment you're clearly getting from doing it. I also think you've been very honest about your own journey. And I hope that it means that anyone who's not sure what they want to do doesn't feel guilty that maybe at 15 or 16 they don't yet know what they want to do, because a lot of people don't, and that's okay. Exactly. And just almost take your time. Do be practical at the end. I think following the gut, following your intuition as to what the right move for you, I think is so important. So thank you so much for talking to us today. And thank you for tuning in today. For other podcasts in this series, you can subscribe on YouTube and on Spotify.